If you don't have tickets for that one, this will sell out. There was a boot camp that was an excellent place to go and network and if you don't know what boot camp is, it's a 3-day intensive tracks for the WordPress. Friday, there is the computer track, design track, board from the business track, which I'm going to be leading. That's on Friday. And on Saturday, there's just the normal WordCamp tracks. I don't know what their tracks are. Sunday's going to be Core Contributor Day. So I'm really looking forward to WordCamp LA. It's a very well put together event. It's always a good event to go to. And it's put on by Alex and Natalie and Nathan. Thank you. Any questions on WordCamp LA? That's the next WordCamp that's coming up in our area. WordCamp San Diego was coming up, but it's been canceled. It's been pushed off to March. So normally it's in March. They were trying to do it in October. It didn't work out. It's going to be in March. Right after that is WordCamp San Francisco, which is the end of October, October 24th. I'll be up there for that. And then WordCamp Vegas will be sometime in December. And then we start all over again with Phoenix in January. Any questions on WordCamp or WordCamp LA? Who's going? Excellent. Who's speaking? Cool. Did you have something you wanted to say, Jason? Okay. Nope. All right. So, like I said, if you don't have tickets to WordCamp LA, highly recommend it. This is our Facebook page. So, if you're not already part of our Facebook group, this is where we converse when we're not meeting face-to-face. So if you want an invite to the Facebook group, see me afterwards or send me an email through Facebook and I'll add you to the group. We do keep it private, we keep it pretty locked down, keep the spammers out. You do need to let me know when you request an invite that I was here, I'm a real person, I'm not a spammer, and then we'll let you in the group. But this is a very active group and kind of anything goes here. So you can ask any questions, as long as it's sort of on, we do really keep it on topic. But you can ask any question about WordPress, about development. You can insult me if you want. People do that regularly. This is where we meet when we're not meeting face to face. Any questions about the Facebook group? All right. Sarah mentioned that there's another meetup that runs out of here. There's actually 2 other meetups that run out of this room. So we meet the 4th Monday of the month, which is somebody asked what this is. This is the general meetup. So we talk about kind of all kinds of WordPress topics, but we do keep this meetup sort of beginner to intermediate. If you're more interested in developers, then there's Developer Day, which means the 2nd Monday of the month. That's run by Brandon and Jeff from PixelJar, formerly PixelJar, now Proud Favorites. And then the 1st Monday of the month is Designer Day, WordPress for Designers, which is run by Sarah. Raise your hand again. So Sarah, if you want any information on that, Sarah can give you that. That's the first Monday of the month right here. Other meetups in the area, they're just starting with the south. There's an advanced WordPress meetup that's South San Diego. There's a North County San Diego meetup. I'm speaking there tomorrow night. That's led by Chris Lemma. There's the Inland Empire meetup, which Greg attends frequently, which is run by Various, right? Moving north, there is the Hollywood meetup, which I'm going to forget all these. Hollywood meetup, which is run by Natalie. There's the Topanga meetup, which is run by Andrew. There is the Pasadena meetup, which is run by Alex. What did I miss? There's a South Bay meetup, which is run by Adam. Thank you. And then there's I think I got them all.
There's the SoCal WordPress one.
SoCal WordPress.
Yeah, and then there's an advanced one on Saturdays.
Right.
Which is awesome. I went to the last Saturday.
Cool. I miss any other meetups in the neighborhood? Okay. One other group that I always give a shout out for is called SMMOC. It's Social Media Mastermind in Orange County, which meets most Saturday mornings out of Kliman Creative in Costa Mesa. If you want more information on that, go to Meetup and look for SMMOC. I think they're taking August off, so they're not meeting again until September. But that's always a good one to attend. They're not. We do talk about some WordPress stuff, but they're more social media is what they really talk about there. And Bob Watson, I've actually invited him specifically to come speak at WordCamp LA this year to talk about why you would start and run a meetup and the networking that's involved in that. So I think that's a really interesting topic. Any questions or meetups that I may have left out? All right. I think that's it for announcements. Any other quick announcements before I move on? All right. So we covered where am I. Were there any questions on what this is? I think you asked what this is, so I wanted to talk about this is the general meetup, and then there's Developer Day and Design Day. Come on. So tonight I wanted to talk about WordPress 4 beta. Beta 2, which just came out, so we're going to talk about what's coming in WordPress 4. I also wanted to talk about Advanced Custom Field 5. Advanced Custom Fields 5, which just came out. That's not very long. I don't have much to say there, but I do want to talk about it. What else do we want to talk about tonight? What you come here for? Yep.
I might suggest we talk about gravity views.
Okay. I have no idea what that is.
I know a tiny bit about it, but it has to do with gravity forms.
I think you're going to be excellent to lead that discussion. Thanks, Greg. What else should we talk about? Thanks for volunteering. What else should we talk about?
No, they're all scared.
Yeah, seriously. What'd you come here for? All right.
Just anything at all?
It can be anything WordPress related, or development related, or...
Yeah, I mean, I've been curious how to sort of integrate JavaScript into like WordPress themes.
That is probably more appropriate for Developer Day.
All right.
Yeah. It's a little too developery for this tonight. But we can, we'll do the meeting and then we do networking afterwards. So you're welcome to talk about that. We'll stand around for about half an hour. So I'm sure there's plenty of people in the room that can talk about exactly that. Raise your hand if you're a developer. There's your people. So grab one of them after the meeting, or me. Yeah, we'll happily talk about that stuff.
The best way to protect yourself against attacks.
Oh, okay.
Security.
Yeah, we can always talk about security. We can never get enough talks about security. What kind of attacks specifically?
Just attacks from China, Eastern Europe.
Like a DDoS attack?
Yeah. Well, they're all just trying to sign in and eventually be administrators or whatever else.
All right, we can touch on that. No problem. What else? What's the latest in the app presser world?
I don't know. Nothing I want to present about.
All right, fair enough. Okay. If anything else comes up, I think that if we have more time at the end, we'll definitely discuss it.
Yeah, I know we talked about this during the developer meeting last week or a couple weeks ago regarding being able to change the login page. And I know that you brought up a plugin that you can purchase, IPs or something like that.
IP security.
And I would be curious to learn more about what the principle is behind that and how that actually works, whether it's a code thing that you have to implement in order to do that, or if it's a server setup deal.
Okay, I think we can cover that. That's not so developery. We can talk about a couple of plugins that allow you to do that. I think that's what we're talking about. Under security, since we're talking about that, this will be a good segue. Why don't we talk about suggested plugins around security and probably around login. Things like...
I mean, is it so complicated that you have to go through a plugin, or is there an easy approach to...
well, there are definitely developer approaches to it, but tonight I'm going to talk about plugins so that it's accessible to anybody that's here. Fair enough?
No, that sounds...
The plugins just make it really easy.
Yeah.
It's push button.
Yeah. Usually. Usually.
If it works.
Well, until you wait till you set that.
I just like to understand...
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I was just wondering for all the developers and workers, like whatever clients that you're working with, how do they ask for your advice as far as how do you get people to read your blog, or what are some of the benefits of, like, why do people want WordPress? Like, what's the benefits of WordPress?
I like that. We can talk about that.
And if developers are customizing anything for any of their clients. And so I'm not talking about it.
Okay, no, we can talk about that.
There's a question there about getting people to read your blog.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Traffic generation, SEO.
We covered some of that on the show.
Yeah, so let's talk about what the water cooler is for a minute if you haven't watched it. So every Monday morning, Jason produces a show called WP Water Cooler, and it's a half-an-hour show, and we have a topic, and it's part entertainment and part informational, probably more entertainment than informational, but there are definitely things you can glean from every episode. But last week, Jason, I don't know if you want to talk about it, or actually today. So go ahead and talk about what we talked about today.
Yeah, so today was about like the top tips for blogging. So it was very outside developer, very outside the scope of running a business or anything. It's just what can you do to do better at your blog. So talking about some of the tools that we've used, plugins that we've used to kind of help out with those efforts. Talking about things like integrating Evernote into your WordPress blogging efforts. A bunch of those types of things. So each week we come up with a different topic when we kind of attack it. And so this week was top tips for blogging.
Was last week free plugins, or was it the week before?
Yeah, last week was free plugins, which
Okay.
is always like my favorite episodes because we just throw out 5,000 plugins.
And so we've talked a little bit about it in here, but that's an episode I definitely watched. Is last week's episode, which is about we just talked about plugins, but favorite free plugins. So, all right, these are good topics. All right, we'll stop there. We'll see how much we can cover tonight. First thing I want to talk about is WordPress 4.0. So while WordPress 4.0 sounds like a major upgrade, we're going from 3 to 4. It's not. This is the way WordPress is doing it. We're going from 3.9 to 4.0. Yes, there is a lot of stuff they're doing under the hood. There are a lot of improvements, but it's not like when we went from WordPress 2 to WordPress 3. That to me was a major upgrade. And the reason it's changed is because the core team made a conscious decision a couple years ago at WordCamp San Francisco. They announced it. They made a conscious decision to do smaller releases. So each release that they're doing of WordPress has a set amount of features in it. So they're not biting off too much in each release. So going from 3.9 to 4.0 is not as big as when we went from 2 to 3. Right? So we're going to look at it. It's going to look very similar to what WordPress looks like today. There are some key features in there, but what you're seeing, and you may already be seeing this, is the .1 or the .x releases are coming out more frequently. So we're seeing .x releases about every 2 months from WordPress, maybe every 2 or 3 months. So we went from 3.8 to 3.9 really quick, and we just got 3.9 and we're going to 4.0 really fast. And that's got its pros and cons. But that's the story behind 3.9 to 4.0. Anybody have any questions on that? All right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What's typically your approach when you upgrade each version as far as your testing procedures? Do you first upgrade like
I yell a lot.
There's usually drinking.
Yes, there's drinking and drugs involved. Good, that's a great question. So my personal procedure is when 4.0 comes out, we do not upgrade. We upgrade when 4.01 comes out. So I don't do any .0 releases. That's just my personal preference because .0 releases scare me. Okay, but yeah,
I do the same thing.
as part of our process, when we get a beta, so 4.0 beta 2 is out, we've already loaded this beta for our major clients on a development server, actually on a second development server, to see what it does to their current site. So we build this right into our QA plan and our development plan. WordPress for us is part of our code repositories, right? It sits there, and so it becomes basically we integrate it into our personal development. That's personally how I do it. Any other comments from the other developers in the room? They're similar.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
If you don't have really high paying clients and you're doing your smaller sites and stuff, you probably don't have like crazy development environments like that. So really, like if you have a host that has a staging server like WP Engine or something, you could just upgrade on the staging server and see what happens. And it's usually just one click, and then if nothing happens, you can go upgrade on the live site. just make sure the background's clean up first. So exactly. But like, if it's not a big, expensive client site, like a personal site or something, I mean, for me at least, I just back everything up and then I kind of just go for it. So if I'm on a staging site, I just go for it. If it breaks, then I just revert it.
It's just because you go on the sites, when you look painful.
Yeah.
So, actually, I'm glad you mentioned WP Engine. So WP Engine is a WordPress managed host. There's several of them out there. But WP Engine will force you to upgrade. So I think it's within 2 weeks of each release, they actually just upgrade you. So you don't really have a choice with WP Engine, and that's good and bad. And here's why here's really the issue with this is if you're using an outdated plugin, an outdated theme, technology that maybe I wrote, it may just break with a new version of WordPress because they've changed some function, they've changed a hook, they've just changed something, right? So you may upgrade, or I'm always fearful of that update button on a live server because you may hit that and then end up with a white screen of death or a PHP error or something, right? And then it takes long to debug. This is a good segue. I pulled up desktop server because this will kind of help you along with this process. So Scott mentioned something I think is important. WP Engine has automatically with every site you have a production server, you have a staging server. And on smaller sites, like Scott was mentioning, I use staging as a development environment because you can just copy the live site. There's a one button, you copy the live site over to staging, now you've got a development environment. But I always recommend that you use desktop server or some sort of local web server environment because then you can code everything here on your computer without affecting what's happening on your site. And desktop server allows you to do that really easily. So you may have heard of platforms like WAMP or MAMP or XAMPP. Desktop server is a front end for XAMPP, and it's specifically for WordPress, and it's just really easy to use. So if you're not a developer and you do want to do what I'm talking about, this is the program for it. And if you have any more questions on desktop server afterwards, see Greg Franklin in the back. Okay? So this will help you kind of do that testing on your local environment before you go to production. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
It's free.
It is free. For up to 3 sites, correct, Greg?
That's correct.
Yep. And you have anybody totally confused with what I just said? And then I haven't had enough beer yet. All right. So, all right, we've talked about the pitfalls and what can go wrong with upgrades. But let's talk about what's coming in WordPress 4.0. So I have it installed. Again, I'm running desktop server. I have it installed here. It looks very similar to WordPress 3.9 with some key, sort of little features. And one of the biggest features that I noticed right away is the media library now has a grid view. So that's what you're used to inside of the media library, but now they have this grid view. So you can now view your images a little bit nicer inside of the media library. Make sense? I don't know what these checkboxes do. Anybody know what these do? Bulk actions. Thank you. What's that?
I think it's when you download it to the site itself.
No, I think these are for the bulk actions. Is what Scott was saying.
So if you want to read it.
Yeah. So the media library has a grid view in addition to the list view that we're used to. Clicking on an item takes you into this modal, so this is new as well. So if I click on this, this is all new. So this is a new interface inside of WordPress 4.0, and this is where they spend a lot of their time. A lot of the UI improvements that you're seeing, actually, I take it back. WordPress 4.0 has a lot of really nice, just little UI improvements that make working inside of WordPress easier and quicker. User interface.
Thank you.
And here's one of them. So you can see what they added up here was arrows. So once I've opened up the modal, in WordPress now, I've got to close the modal and open a new one to go to the images I want. Now they have this, so I can scroll through my images really easy within the modal view. And those little UI improvements are handy because that's just it's saving me a click to go back.
Are they going to do that for posts or pages?
I don't think so, but let's take a look.
I know there's a plugin that I use for the posts that's really handy.
It doesn't look that way. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. One of the things that I really like, and I'm always a fan of, I talk about it in here a lot, is WordPress embeds. So the way WordPress handles embeds, things like YouTube, Vimeo, Hulu, it's really they've made a lot of improvements. Each version of WordPress that comes out has a lot of improvements with embeds. Now they have a preview of the embedded URL inside of the visual editor. It wasn't working for me, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it again. Let's just grab this. So, oh, it did work. So I just pasted in the URL of the YouTube video, and it's showing me a preview of the YouTube inside of the TinyMC editor, which is pretty handy. Does it work? It does work. So I'm actually seeing that right inside of the edit box, which is pretty cool. And so this should work with all WordPress embeds. And if you're not familiar with those are, if you search WordPress embeds, there's a codex page on it. So anything that's listed here, anything that's listed here is a WordPress embed. So you can just copy the URL and paste it into the visual editor. WordPress will take care of the rest. You don't have to copy the embed code anymore. I'll give you an example. This is one of the examples that I love. Is if you go to Twitter. So there's my latest tweet. If you don't know how to do this, you click on the time of the tweet right there, and that'll take you to the individual tweet itself. And then you grab the URL tweet, you can post it into or paste it into the post, and oh, look at that! So there's the Twitter card embedded into the body of the post as well. So again, any embed that you see here, you just grab the URL, you paste it in, WordPress takes care of the rest for you. So that's pretty sweet. Questions on that? All right. Let's take a look and see what they did to the plugin install process. So that is new. So this is a new interface when you're installing plugins. So I haven't played with this yet, but this gives you a little bit more detail about the plugins that you're viewing. Let's do a search for cache plugins. So there is all the cache plugins. So it gives you a lot more detail than you have now. So inside of WordPress, this is pretty limited, but now you get a lot more information from WordPress.org as to what's happening with those plugins. So that's pretty cool.
You don't see as many plugins on the screen. Can you disable it to make it?
Good question. Yeah, I'm not seeing a way to do that. But this is still a beta, so I don't know. I don't know. Inside of I would expect that inside the media library they had the choice between grid or list. So you want to go back to list view. I'm not seeing a way to do it right now.
When I search for plugins, it's almost always like the first or
absolutely
the top 4 or 5 hits. That's the one that I want.
True. What's cool? Go ahead. Yep.
No, I just said that.
Yep. What's great about this is I really do rely on this information. So the rating, the amount of downloads, when it was last updated, that's key information if you're installing a plugin. And right now in the current version of WordPress, if I see a plugin I like, I have to open up the codex page and go look for that information, which is you have to scroll down the page. Again, they're saving you that extra step. So this is key information. We will talk about this when we talk about plugins. But if you don't if you're not using this information to your advantage, that's when you may run into problems when we talk about upgrades, outdated plugins. This is the information you want to pay attention to if you're using plugins.
Did they do anything with more details, like box, or is it the same?
Oh no, that is new. There you go. So yeah, that in the current version of WordPress, this is very limited. The information that pops up. I don't even the pop-up that happens now. I don't even look at it. I click the codex page and open up a new window and look at it if I'm curious about the plugin. So that's pretty handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either. One of the things that I love inside of WordPress, and this isn't anything new, but I always give this a mention, is if you are a WordPress.org user and you favorited plugins, and I have my list of favorites, you can put your username in here, and then that will show me my list of favorites. So right inside of my dashboard, I'm seeing the plugins that I favorited. So I favorite the ones that I use often, so that I don't have to go and search them again. Jason, what's your?
Jason Tucker.
So cryptic.
I know.
So again, now if Jason has some recommended plugins for me, I can put in his name, and I see his list of favorites right inside of the dashboard. So that's pretty handy. Again, that favorites thing is not a new feature, but they did relay it out a little bit.
Do you have a way of searching for people you know in WordPress?
Not that I know of.
Like, if I didn't know your actual name, the way you spelled it, could I
You
search
could
for
find
you?
you could find if they made a plugin, you could search for their plugin, and then their name shows up right there. So like Meanwhile over on the far right, if you were to like grab that name and put it in the search, you'd be able to find out what they did.
Yeah, I don't know a way to do that.
Yeah, I noticed in WordPress you can't search for people. Not like Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Same thing, like with GitHub also. You can't search for people.
Let's run the install process really quick because this is kind of neat. So let's do let me just back this one out.
You should pick Spanish for you.
I will absolutely pick Spanish. WordPress 4. All right, so here's what's changed. So if on my first install WordPress 4, it now gives you the ability to choose a language. So this isn't really anything new inside of WordPress. WordPress has been multi-language for many, many years. But it was difficult to install another language. Difficult is not the right word. It's time-consuming to install another language because you had to go download that piece of software, put it on your server, and there was some setup involved inside of the WP config file, right? This is now, I just say, I want this to be in, what Jason wants, Spanish?
Right, yeah, so you can navigate.
Espanol. So now WordPress is in Spanish. So it's been the WordPress interface is now localized in Spanish. And we have done some sites in the past for Japan, and so we've had to install these in kanji, which I can't read. But this makes that process much easier now. So that's been changed in WordPress 4. And no, I don't want to translate that. You want me to navigate in Spanish? Mm-hmm. Thanks for the suggestion.
That's how I had to do it on the website once.
Okay. I didn't check out this feature. Does anybody have any experience with what they've improved with keyboard and cursor interactions inside of the editor? I didn't really see anything there, so I'm not going to talk about it. I did play with the widgets though. So if you are doing any any work within the customizer panel, this got a facelift. So this is kind of cool. Is inside of the widgets area, this area got a little bit more dynamic. Right? So if you're used to this in WordPress 3.9, this widgets, or excuse me, the customizer is nothing new. This is. So you can see there, again, these are just simple little UI improvements. So now I'm in my widgets area, and if I want to go back, now I'm here. So right now, if I have a bunch of widgets, a bunch of sidebar widgets, it scrolls way past, and that becomes a real pain with the customizer. If you're using a theme that has a lot of customization options, plus a lot of widgets, it's really hard to navigate. So they made a nice UI improvement there. Makes sense? And then there's something with the drag and dropping as well. This is new as well. So there's some really nice UI improvements here. This is not new, but you can see that the widgets are changing on the fly. So here we're looking at a widget here. Let me zoom out so we're not responsive. So my sidebar widgets are here. So you see I've got recent posts, recent comments, search. If I reorganize search above comments, it does update on the fly. That's nothing new. That's not new to 4.0. That's in 3. That came in 3.9.
Keep in mind, I was playing around with this, and it doesn't always show exactly how it shows on the real things.
You're right.
It looks like super weird. Just make sure you read the site and sanity check and make sure. Before you take it down.
Yeah.
And what is cool though is the fact that you're seeing this dynamically live in the back, but it's not actually done publicly.
That's right. So what Greg's saying is I can go in and I can customize this all day. My audience doesn't see this. This is not public. So if I don't like what I did, I just hit cancel and it's back to the way it was. I never changed it in the first place.
You show where you could add a widget?
Nope.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Where's that?
Go back to the customizer. Widgets. And then click add a widget.
Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thanks. So this is all an all new UI for 4.0. Thanks, Scott. So if I want RSS widget, there it is.
Those are the widgets that come.
Well, the add a widget is only pulling from widgets that I have installed. Yeah. Actually, this says search widgets. That must be, again, searching from what I have installed. I don't think it's going to add new widgets because those come in a plugin. Yeah. Yeah. So these are all the widgets that I have available. But I'm assuming the search is there. So if I have a list that's too long, yeah, I put meta and it's paring down what's in that.
That's nice because the widget area is just out of control.
Big time.
I should say filter, not search.
You're right. It is a filter. That is the proper term. Matter of fact, you should submit that as a bug report. Word beta 2 down the time. And then you can put your name, put your stamp on that box when they change the filter.
They go to line.
Dave, you're gonna be huge in Europe. Any other questions about widgets or the customizer, this feature?
On that page you have with themes,
Yep.
when you go to that page,
This
you
page?
decide to change your site, your existing site to one of this style. Does that automatically happen? You just click on the theme, the new theme, and it goes all your website into this?
Yes. Yes, and to take it a step further, if I just wanted to change my site to 2013, I can activate it, and now the front end of my site has changed to 2013. Again, that's nothing new in 4.0, but that's how WordPress works. If I wanted to just see my site in, say, 2011, there's a live preview button which works similar to the customizer. So now that's what my site would look like if I applied this theme, but the public is not seeing that. So that's what that live preview feature is for. I think that's what you're asking. If I wanted to install, again, this is not new to WordPress 4. If I wanted to add a new theme, this came along, I think, in 3.9 or maybe 3.8. Here's a bunch of free themes I can choose from. So I don't have to install the theme any longer to see what my site's going to look like. So that theme there, if I click preview, I'm seeing how my site would look in this theme. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing a preview of this theme inside my dashboard. And then if I like it, I click install. And still, it's not live yet. I've just downloaded the files I need. And now I want to see a live preview with my site. I click that. That's what my site's going to look like. Again, the public hasn't seen anything yet. This is just for me on the dashboard side. Now I like it. I save and activate. And now my site has changed that theme. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So those were the features that were in beta 1. Again, a big part of what they're doing in WordPress 4 is they're integrating the new version of TinyMCE. If you don't know what I'm talking about, TinyMCE is this. So this visual editor right here, this whole box is built with a technology called TinyMCE. What does MCE stand for? Wow, it's so big. All right, I don't know either. So this editing box is TinyMCE, and that is what's that?
Moxicode content.
Moxicode content editor. So the Moxicode content editor is a project separate from WordPress. TinyMCE you can find in lots of content management systems. WordPress just happens to integrate it. So they make improvements outside of WordPress. WordPress has to integrate them into their system because WordPress does some very specific things inside of TinyMCE. So that's a lot of the improvements that they make.
I had a question for you
Yeah.
around the TinyMCE.
Yeah.
One of the top things I get from some of my more novice WordPress users is that they can't control the size of their font. I know that there's the H1 and H2, but is there a plugin that you recommend to control the size of the font inside the user?
TinyMCE Advanced will let you customize the buttons that are up here. So it lets you add things like font sizing. So again, remember I said TinyMCE is integrated into WordPress. They've actually turned off a lot of the features that are in standard default TinyMCE. And you can turn those back on with the TinyMCE Advanced plugin.
I understand the reason not to have it, but still, still finds that just like Microsoft Word.
Got it. Now this font that we're looking at, I don't know if you saw, but it changed. It didn't look like this in my last go-round of looking at this specific post. The reason why is I changed themes. Okay, that font is based on your theme. WordPress actually pulls the font from your theme into TinyMCE so that you can get a good preview of what's there. That's since 3.9 or 3.8. It's not. It's new, but it's not new to 4.0. What's that?
You don't have to set a style sheet. The editor style sheet. Is that what it is? That's been around for a long time. If you put an editor style sheet.
Well, we're only using WordPress themes. Oh no, I'm not using WordPress theme. I'm using free theme. I'm assuming it probably has an editor style sheet in there. So some themes are going to do it, some themes aren't.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Not all themes can do that. So
yes.
Not all of them do.
Yeah.
But that's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the point was that if it's done like Scott's saying, if the developers have thought this through, you're going to get the font inside of TinyMCE, inside of the editor, that is what's going to look like on the front end. But specifically, what you're looking for is TinyMCE Advanced or Moxicode editor.
Tiny Moxicode content.
Right, to make it more confusing.
Did you demonstrate the scroll bar that's disappeared now?
Which part?
In there, right there, if you paste a whole bunch of text in, unless there's no scroll bar anymore on the right of the editor area.
So you're saying no scroll? Oh, there's no scroll bar because I have no scrolling. There's nothing to scroll. When I paste it in. Oh.
And you'll notice the bar now sticks to the top. We have a stick.
Yes, this sticks. So this area sticks and it scrolls underneath. Is what you're saying? Yeah. Thank you, Greg. I forgot about that. Yeah. So they got rid of the scroll bar. They got rid of the scroll bar here because you have a scroll bar over here. The browser has its own scroll bar. That's pretty cool. Thanks, Greg. Everybody knows what's going on here? Is that these top buttons here are sticking when I scroll underneath it. So that's kind of handy. So WordPress 4.0 Beta 2 came out about 10 days ago. And so we've looked at most of the features that are in WordPress 4.0 Beta. They made some further improvements. If you're curious about it, you can search what I'm looking at here. I'm assuming they'll go through another beta before it comes out. When's WordPress 4.0 due out? Is there a date? No? I don't know.
There's the brought back the color picker, but that was kind of.
Brought back the color picker where?
Beta 2. They took it away. The Beta 2, the second bullet.
Oh yeah, yeah. Restoration of the color picker. So it must be.
Brings the text.
This?
Yeah, they took that away for a second.
So they took this away?
I think they did. I think we were talking about it at SoCal WordPress.
And they changed the custom one on the right. Like it has like a different rainbow effect or something.
Which guy?
If you click on that, yeah, if you click on custom, it's like, yeah, that's actually word custom.
Oh. Cool.
Like the code behind that is something called iris.
Got it. Pretty.
4.0's due August 27th.
August 27th. So we got another month. Okay. Any questions on WordPress 4? I think we covered everything. Did I miss anything? Okay. As you can see, again, I'm going to mention, I can't say this enough, I'm running this locally. I've set up a desktop server install, I've installed it, and this is where I beta test 4.0. I'm not doing this on a production server. All right. Who is using advanced custom fields? Me too. So ACF just went through a major upgrade. So advanced custom fields allows me to do essentially this. And this is a little developer-y, but essentially what advanced custom fields lets me do is add custom meta boxes to my post pages and other media. So here's my normal WordPress post. If I go into ACF, let's add a new field, and we'll just call it post settings. Say, I don't know, video. Let's say I've got a video I want to show in a place on a page. Okay. If I go back to my post, I'll reload it, and now Advanced Custom Fields has added this meta box. Post settings that I call it. And it works just like any of the meta box where it's draggable. It's built right into WordPress in a very WordPressy way. It's built on WordPress standards, but I have the ability to add all these fields very easily for my clients. Now each site that we set up for our clients is custom built for them. And they all have specific nuances that they need to do. Okay, now I showed you one very simple field that's in ACF. It's just a text field. But Advanced Custom Fields lets you do much more than that. So these are the fields that come with ACF. Text area, number, email, password, and what's great about ACF is when I'm using something like password, it automatically knows that it's a password field and it'll hide the password characters for me, right? If I'm using something like email, it's going to verify that that's an email field when I go to, it's an email address when I go to enter it. All that logic is already built into ACF. Now, pre-ACF 5 and ACF 4, if you wanted something like a repeater, and we'll show what that is in a second, or ACF Gallery, those were add-ons that you bought separately for ACF. You had to buy each one separately, and you install them as modules. It was a little bit of a pain for me because each site I'd set up, I'd say, okay, do I really need the repeater here? Do I need the gallery? And I install those separate plugins. ACF 5 groups everything into one plugin, so you only need one plugin now. Actually, there's two flavors. There's ACF 5, which is free, and there's ACF 5 Pro. So once you buy the Pro version, you've got all the modules. And if you've owned one of the modules in the past, they give you a version of ACF 5 Pro. But I don't think it's that expensive. Can you look at the price for me? I don't think it's that expensive, period. And this is, if you're doing these kinds of custom builds, this is well worth the price we mentioned. Okay? So let's say I wanted to add we were talking about color pickers. Let's make video color picker instead. So now when I go back to this post, there's my color picker. And again, I'm just choosing a color for something. I don't know what that something is going to be yet. Okay? Just looking at what some of the field options. One of the things they added in the most recent version of ACF, actually I don't know if this came out in the most recent version, if this has been there, but Google Maps. So I have the ability to embed a map and a location inside of a post and use all that meta. This has been here for a while, but a date picker is really handy. So if I've got a date-based content, you can put a date in there. And some of the things that we do are event-based content. So an event might have a start and end time, and we use the date picker for that. So I used to program these meta boxes by hand, and you can do that. There's really good documentation on that. Anywhere I can find a plugin that does it faster than I can, I use it. And this is just a major, major time saver. So, because I have ACF Pro installed, I have all of the other stuff that comes along with ACF. So one of the fields that I like a lot is called a repeater. And a repeater is something like, let's say, for example, you wanted to set up a slideshow. A slideshow would be a repeater, and then you've got subfields under that that would be your slides. So let's look at what that looks like. So there's my repeater, and underneath that I'm going to put slide. So we'll give it a slide URL. I'm going to add another field, call it a slide image. On the URL, I put in a text field, but ACF can also access everything that's inside of WordPress. So if you want to access other posts or media, for the image, I'm just going to make it object type image. So that will actually give me the ability to open up the WordPress media library and choose an image. Okay? This is new inside of ACF 5. There's an embed field. So we talked about embeds before. This will tap into that whole embed system inside of WordPress. Let me go ahead and save this. And now I should have the ability to administer essentially what is a slideshow. So for the way this works, let me change the layout here. Because I used a repeater, I have the choice whether I want a table or block. I like the block layout better, which looks like this. So let me add a row, and that's the block layout. It's rows instead of columns. So let's say my slides again. I'm not doing any programming in the back end here. I just kind of want to show you what this looks like inside of the dashboard. Remember I said it taps right into WordPress. I want to add an image. It pulls up the image, the media editor for me. I'm just going to drag in an image. Then we'll put an image here. Do one more.
So basically, this is just saving this information with your post.
Exactly.
You still need to come up with code to utilize this metadata later.
Exactly. This is a post meta editor. But here's what's cool. Again, what I love about ACF. Give me 1 second. What I love about ACF is the UI that they've put into this is unbelievable. The JavaScript and the way they built this is amazing. And here's a quick example of it. So here's my slideshow editor. If I want, there's my sort of plus and minus. If I wanted to add a slide in the middle here, I click plus, and I've got a slide in between those two slides, which is kind of rare for people to think of that level of UI. Other slideshow editors don't do this. If I wanted to move them around, I could just drag the side, and now I've moved them around. So all that's already built into ACF. That UI is there for you. What's your question?
Now, how does it look on the site? On the live site, so if you can upload this to the live site, and then I'd like to see what it looks like when you do that.
And we're going to cover that on Developer Day.
Oh, okay.
The reason is because this is really, like we said, this is a post meta editor. This gets the meta already for then my theme developer to develop what's going to look like on the front end. That's what this is for.
One thing that's cool is Advanced Custom Fields includes all these functions that are super easy to use with great documentation.
That's actually, let me just say, I'm gonna say what she said again, because I want to reiterate that. Documentation is king when it comes to these things. And many of these plugins are not documented well. This is one that they've really focused on documentation. Their documentation is superior.
ACF Pro is
$100? $100 for ACF Pro?
Yep.
Well worth the price of admission.
The 4 add-ons, that's what you get out of Pro, is the 4 add-ons that were regionally available separately.
Got it.
That's one time.
I've only paid it once.
So, I mean, is that a one-time purchase?
I believe so, yeah. One time?
I don't know, their store and their cart kind of died right now.
Well, what's good about this is that it's a good place for your developer to start off with, because you're not having to pay your developer to go through and build this functionality into the back end of the site. I know, like, the front end of the site isn't changing at all. You're still going to pay your developer to make this stuff look pretty on the front end. But on the back end of it, it's going to be something that you're not going to have to worry about keeping up to date. The software just updates itself. You go through and update the plugin, and everything should work. But for the most part, what you're getting at is great functionality that's just going to work all the time with no problems. It's been tested throughout the entire community, and it's a good plugin to work on.
That's a fantastic point. Major money saver if you're hiring a developer. I love that. There was another point I was going to make here. I forgot, but that's good stuff.
No.
Yep.
The other side of that is you can have someone that's not a developer do this, and provide the content essentially.
Yep.
And then the developer can take it and go with it.
Yep. Oh, I know what I was going to say is to reflect what Jason was saying. I've built several of these interfaces by hand. Something like I just showed you with just the slides moving around, deleting, inserting. That's it's many hours of work to make that happen.
Hard stuff to do.
Yes.
Yes.
And it never really works right.
It's so tedious.
Yes. So yeah. So part of the reason I wanted to bring up ACF 5 is if you're using ACF 4, they made major changes to the database. Okay? The whole schema for ACF 5 is different than ACF 4. And it's better. They did improve it. One of the Achilles heels of ACF 4 is it wasn't truly scalable. There were some problems with it because they were saving everything in the post-meta table. Again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, that's okay. Just know that when you got into really big sites, ACF 4 had some problems, had some scalability problems. Those are all gone. So they've moved the necessary pieces around inside of the database and made it really focused on scalability.
Are they still using post-meta?
They are. They're using post-meta, but the field references now live in posts rather than post-meta. So the field names, the field references all live in post-meta. So when you're searching against those in the past, it was not scalable because they weren't indexed. Sorry to get developer.
So is there a problem updating to this version?
That's where I'm going with this. So ACF 3 to ACF 4 was a major headache. If you went through that transition, it was bad. They made a lot of mistakes. They changed a lot of hook names. They changed a lot of functions, and things just broke. So if you were a developer and you were using ACF 3, upgrading to ACF 4 was bad. It was a real pain. ACF 4 to ACF 5 has been a breeze.
You're talking about on the developer side.
I'm just talking about updating. So even if you weren't a developer, ACF 3 to ACF 4 was bad. It had problems. ACF 4 to ACF 5, I think they learned from their mistakes. So what happens if you're running ACF 4 now and you upgrade to ACF 5, there's a document on their site that tells you what to do, tells you when to install, when to activate, and once you activate, you get a button that says upgrade my database. It takes a half a second. It's really fast, but they move the fields around that need to move around, and you're done. So they take care of it all for you. And I've upgraded, I think, 10 sites now without any problems.
So it was the update database that I was concerned about.
Yes.
Not having to go back on your post and
That was my concern when I went to from 4 to 5. And we did a lot of testing around it. 4 to 5 was very easy. Okay. If you're curious about some of the things that came up that were introduced in ACF 5, I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a page on ACF's website that'll talk about 5 of the new features, some of the new improvements. Yeah, Google Maps is one of the biggies. The relationship fields, the way you could sort of relate one post to another one, had some problems, and they've made some improvements there. So they really did make some key improvements in ACF 5. I installed this plugin by default on every site that I built.
How do you go from 4 to 5? It's not an automatic process.
The way I did it is, because I'm a pro user, I downloaded the pro plugin. Okay, the way you do it is you install a plugin, you activate ACF 5 with ACF 4 still running.
So it's a separate.
And as soon as you activate it, it'll give you that I'm ready to upgrade button. You upgrade the database and you turn off 4. That's how I did it. That's probably not exactly what they said on their site. It's something similar to that, but it's similar to those steps. That's just how I did it.
And when did ACF 5 come out? I mean,
Just a few weeks ago.
Okay, so I probably got 4 still.
Any other questions on ACF 5 or just in general? Any questions on it? Again, like I said, I rely on this plugin. This is what we use to build custom features for our clients.
Does Benson Custom Fields have any good backend functions to create the slideshow we were talking about?
Personally, when I'm creating a slideshow like I just did, I just use their subfield technology. So because it's a repeater, it's actually a very simple, like you said, it's really pretty easy PHP. It's get field, and you loop through it because it's a repeater, and I use those subfields to display the slides. That's how I do it.
That'd be cool, because I would love to solve that.
I can find some of that code and clean up and post it to the Facebook. Happy to do that. Okay.
Yeah. Did they say anything about integration with the JSON REST API?
Not that I saw. Nope. No, I don't think that's what you're looking for. Not that I saw. Any other questions on ACF before we move on? All right, I'm going to save Greg to the end. Give him a couple more minutes to prepare.
So that might be a cool topic for the developer meeting to actually talk about the other end.
Yes. Actually, I could come do that. I'll talk to Brandon and Jeff, and I'll come do that. I work within this plugin every day. This is a core part of my development. All right. Can you turn on the lights for me? Let's talk about security. I don't want to grab a beer for that. What do you want to know about security?
What plugin would you recommend to give you best channel protection against bot attacks?
What kind of attack?
Well, basically, what I experienced, I just had a huge amount of people trying to sign on.
DDoS.
Yeah.
DDoS type of attack.
What does DDoS stand for?
Denial of service.
Right.
Distributed denial of service attack. Thank you.
Here, they were trying to do that. What they're trying to do was to get the names of my members.
Okay.
Rather than that, just huge amounts. I had to shut the system down.
So I run security on all my big sites. So security will give you recommendations on hardening and where you should be looking at on your server for locking down certain folders, turning off certain access. The security plugin is pretty good about
just called security.
Securi, SUCURI.net. So go on Securi. It is a paid service. So you pay them for a certain number of sites, and they give you the advice you need on kind of locking down your sites.
I think WordFence.
We'll talk about WordPress in a second. The other thing that Securi does is malware. So they do malware cleanup. So, and I actually have used them a few times when we've had a malware attack. So what they'll do is, if you do get some sort of malware on your site, they'll go in, they'll clean it, and they'll also then either harden the site for you or tell you what you need to do to prevent that from happening again. So they do a fair amount of that sort of service for you, and Securi is just an annual fee. It's not very expensive.
How is it? It's secure.net, you said?
Securi, SUCURI.net.
SUCURI.net.
So Securi is starts at $90 a year for one site, and again, well worth the price of admission. I think I have the business plan because I use this on several sites. So Securi is run by Tony Perez, who's spoken at several WordCamps. Some of you might know him, and they're just a really great company in the website security space, but specifically WordPress security space. And then there's WordFence. So I don't have any experience with WordFence. Anybody here use WordFence? Can you talk about WordFence?
I use it on every site.
Okay.
The primary things I use it for is setting the login limit.
Yep.
And also, you can restrict specific usernames, such as if you should have admin. You can put that in there, and you can put admin in there to block that IP address right away. You can block countries. You can do there's a free version, and then there's a premium version. The premium version will actually monitor every single file if something touches it. So malware type situation, you would be notified right away.
I'm using WordPress, but the free version.
Yeah.
And I've been able to cut out countries.
Yes.
And that's been a huge difference.
Yes.
And it notifies you anytime someone tries to do it.
I've been very happy with it.
Yeah.
Anything else for security plugins? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years ago in the national press, there was a big story about there was a plugin, and I guess security problems on a couple million websites or more.
What's that? I can't hear you.
It was a Mailpoet.
Mailpoet? That's a WordPress plugin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to ask you anything about.
I don't, but
What do you do if you're using that?
No, but if you look on the OC WordPress Facebook page, there's a guy, Tony Perez, that we're just talking about. He wrote like a post-mortem of what happened with that. So you may want to look at it from his perspective, what they found and how they kind of went about going through it.
Can you summarize what happened?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Go in
Can you
there.
summarize what happened?
No, I don't use Mailpoet, so
There
I
it is.
didn't really care too much about it. But I did skim through it a little bit. But yeah, if you read it, you probably
So-
get a good understanding.
I'm still at security.net, and I clicked on blog. Tony blogs about these things as well, and then he posted into the Facebook group. So that's the Mailpoet. That's Tony's response to the Mailpoet.
I use Mailchimp, which is kind of off-site, so I've never used Mailpoet. I've heard about it, but never actually used it.
And the other one that's popular right now is the one by iThemes. And that one does what you were talking about, where you could use
Move things around.
out of obscurity.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
This guy?
Yes.
It used to be called Better WP Security.
Oh, okay.
It's changed into this.
Got it.
The last piece is Securi also has another product called Cloud Proxy, which just kind of sits between the internet and your website. So it takes care of the mass service attacks, it takes care of all those sorts of things. It's like $10
$10 a month.
website. So if you have a site that's making good money and you want to protect it, try one of these products out. It's just like getting an alarm system for your brick and mortar business.
Will Cloudflare do the similar thing?
Similar.
Yeah, similar.
There's a couple of services that do things like this.
Got it.
Question.
Yep.
A lot of people say WP Engine Handle Security. What does that entail?
So when they're saying something like that, the comment was people say WP Engine handles security. A good host, I take it back. Some hosts will do that for you. So a lot of stuff you don't have to worry about if you are at certain hosts. They'll harden the folders that need to be hardened. They'll sort of take care of denial of service attacks. WP Engine is one of those hosts. So when I'm at WP Engine, I don't really worry about this stuff. And what Jason's trying to point out is they're running this.
Yeah, if you do a quick Google search for security partners, there's actually the list of all of their partners that they work with. So WP Engine, Synthesis, ClickHost, Bootthemes, there's a whole bunch of different folks that they partnered up with. So you can take a look at that list and see who it is that you're using and who you could use that would also benefit from using security.
But this isn't the only way it's done. I've worked with other hosts that monitor for malware, denial of service attacks.
Yeah.
They have a way around this stuff.
Yeah, I get alerts from Rackspace all the time.
Yep.
On my client sites that are there. We have this DDoS behavior, some SSH login attempts. They log it, they send an email, and they have a whole file system going down. Really
Don't expect this from Bluehost.
No. This is not your average
or GoDaddy.
Shared hosting kind of a thing.
But most of the managed WordPress hosts have some type of partnership with a security-like company that takes care of that type of stuff for them. So they can escalate it to, like for instance with WP Engine, we had a site that got hacked, we had all sorts of issues with it. It escalated it to security without my knowledge, they just do it on the back end and say, yeah, we'll take care of it for you. And then they have their partner go through, scan the site, figure out what's wrong with it, evaluate it, fix it, and report back to me, okay, everything's fixed. And so there's all this back and forth conversation happening behind the scenes that I didn't get to see any of it. But I knew it was happening, and so.
That's great.
Yeah. And Jason said managed WordPress hosts. I take that a step further and say managed hosts. If you are looking at hosting and this is something you're serious about, or you have a client that it's not just paying for shared hosting, look for a managed host, whether it's a WordPress host or not.
Unless you want to learn how to be a host.
I really don't.
It's better to pay a professional.
I really do not want to learn how to be a host.
I've been doing this for years and I still don't know anywhere near enough.
Yeah, I'm not in the hosting business. I tell all my clients exactly that.
What's the difference between a host and a managed host? Is it just someone who's hosting the site and managing it at the same time?
If you're just with a host, you're responsible for management. So all the stuff we're talking about is on you. A managed host.
Logins, FTP accounts, SSL, everything is on you.
A managed host, you're going to pay a premium, but they're going to take. They basically operate as your system administrator. That's what a good managed host does in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, not all managed hosts are created equally. So I would look at what you're getting, when you're evaluating managed hosts.
So basically, when we start making, we're going to make sure we manage things.
Yeah.
Is that or
Yeah.
time to learn all this?
Yeah.
Do you want your business in a strip mall, or do you want your business in a big high-rise that has security out front and all that stuff? Yeah.
And we're not talking about big dollars either. I mean, when I look at a managed host that runs $100 a month, that's well worth my time.
It's cheaper than hiring someone.
Yeah. I mean, WP Engine is one site is $30 a month for managed hosting. That's nothing. What's that? I'm not necessarily recommending anybody. I'm just saying. I mean, it's a good choice for managed, WordPress hosting. You can also look at Pageless. You can look at SiteGround, Media Temple. I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah.
So there, Scott. What? So there.
Any one of those is going to be cheaper and easier than trying to do it yourself.
So let's talk about, if you're not doing this, and by the way, if you're listening to this conversation and you think this doesn't apply to you, it applies to you.
Then you need to get a managed host.
I hate to say this, but if you are running a WordPress site, you will get hacked at some point.
It's pretty close to a guarantee.
It's just the nature of the beast. We're in the open source world, so the code is out there for everybody to see, and hackers take advantage of that. That's just how it works. Same is true of any open source platform.
So when you say hack, what would exactly happen?
The things we're talking about. A malware attack is probably the most common. right? So somebody getting access to your server because you're running a theme or a plugin that sort of allows some sort of backdoor, and they inject some malware on your server. Malware can mean many things, from just inserting an ad, or like a Bitcoin server, or could mean wiping out your hard drive. So malware has a very big range.
And that's starting from like the bottom up. So like if you use the same password on your website as well as some service that got hacked, and they found your password, and they just went, oh, you're whatever at yourdomain.com. Oh, I'm going to try that and see if that password works. Oh, it works. Let's go install a plugin. Let's go and change your theme. Let's go and install some hidden plugin that you can't see. And then after that, they've already compromised your site, grabbed all of the email addresses for all of your commenters, and then they change the front page of your site so that if you go away, it loads up just fine. But Google and any other search engine and anybody else who's trying to access the site is seeing a totally different website. And that's like 10 lines of code for them, and then the little script key just hits go, and it just happens. And then he makes 10 cents off of it.
That reminds me about, I just started with LastPass, and they detect whether you've used the same password for different sites, and they have a warning. Okay, this is the same password for another site. You should change it.
I use 1Password. Same thing. Kind of thing. I mean, look at what just happened recently with the Heartbleed bug, right? That was all the major sites that we're used to using, and banking sites, and that all that information just was vulnerable.
And that had nothing to do with what you're running or whatever that is. No. That's SSL, just the SSL having an issue.
Yep. So here's something scary, and I use this site quite a bit. So if a client calls me, one of the first things I do is that I ask them if they have an existing site, right? And I pull up builtwith.com, because if they give me their URL, I'll put it in, and I can tell what it was built with. So this I just typed in Zeek.com. It's built on WordPress. It's running on the WP Engine. It shows me pretty much all the pieces of technology that are sitting on my server. Okay, that's all public information. It's not hidden, which means that all of this stuff is vulnerable, right? So again, I said this is open source software. Hackers have the ability to grab this code, and they have the ability to know this code, right? So as soon as there's an exploit or a backdoor or something that happens in WordPress, or a theme or a plugin, it's going to be exploited. It happens in plugins, it happens in poorly designed themes, but it also happens in core. So sometimes the WordPress team they release something that's vulnerable, and then they release a patch, but it happens.
Why wouldn't they make that private? Give you the option.
Who?
Have it be public or private?
Who?
The way you built your site.
Well, if you're using
WordPress.
If I'm using WordPress, that the code base is public. So my core code is public. It's just how it is. It's just that's the open source world. It would be the same thing if I'm using Drupal.
This stuff's all HTML. So it's just looking at HTML and saying, what's he using? Oh, he's using an SSL certificate. Who's he hosted with? Let's do a who has look at. What's his internet provider? What's this? What's that? It just looks like it's like fingerprints. It just starts looking through and figuring out who's been doing what, who's touched what.
So my point is, if you're not thinking about this is something you need to keep in mind if you're running a WordPress site. If you're running any site, it's just how it is. So let's talk about a couple of very quick security things you can do. We talk about big ones. We talk about security. We talk about WordFence. We got software as a service. But there's some simple things you can do to just sort of block people out of your site without installing security. One of the major things we've talked about a couple times is don't use the username admin. Okay? Older versions of WordPress forced you to have an admin user. Newer versions do not. So don't name your main user admin, right? Because bots are looking for admin.
Yeah, I've tried to change my name from admin to something else. It won't let you do it.
You have to do it in the database.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to change it in the database.
That iTunes security tool will
do that.
Notify you that you're using admin and that it is user ID 1, both of which are bad.
Yep.
And it will walk you through a process to change the name and the ID. You don't have to look at the database, it just does it for you.
Yep.
You can add another admin. leave.
What's that?
I think you want to add another admin.
You can add another admin. You don't want to leave that admin user sitting in there. Yes. Now it is going to take some database work to do that, but that's one thing. The second thing is, and I know this sounds obvious, but use a secure password, right? Right. WordPress got better at this in more recent versions, but they'll tell you if your password is weak or strong, right? Use a secure password. Use something like LastPass that Ken's using, right? WP Engine and some other hosts force you to use a highly secure password. You can't even set a password if it's not considered strong. So that's not using admin and setting a strong password. Those are probably the two biggest tips I can give you as far as security.
You can also take the fact that it's a WordPress site has the label of the home.
What's that?
It says I'm powered by WordPress. You can take that out.
Yeah, delete. It doesn't exactly help, but security will tell you delete your README file. Don't put your README file on the site, because built with that was just reading from my README file, so it knows it's a WordPress site. That's more of a deterrent than anything else.
Well, somebody look at the HTML on the page and look for style.css and see what directory that's in. If that's in anything under WP content, it's a WordPress site.
Ooh, what's a good plugin for limiting login attempts?
Yeah,
it's outdated. It's not the one.
But it still works.
It's still it.
Doesn't Active Security do that too?
I think it does, and WordPress.
Okay. Either way, find a plugin that will limit login attempts, and so after 3 bad attempts, it locks you out for 20 minutes, something along those lines. WP Engine does this by default. They put that plugin in there. So have something like that, because if you do get a DDoS attack or a bot that's just trying passwords over and over again, that bot's just going to move on once it hits that.
Use humans.txt file.
I don't. I find them annoying. Like a CAPTCHA, you mean? I find CAPTCHAs pretty annoying.
Humans.txt. TXT.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something else. I don't. You want to talk about that?
I just wondered if people were using that. I've seen it, in some websites, and I tried it out, and there seems to be some kind of controversy about it, though.
What was it you were trying?
Humans.txt.
It's been a while since I've played with that. One of the other things I can recommend, and this comes with WordPress, is Akismet. So if you're getting comment spam, install Akismet. It'll just take care of it for you. So those are really some very quick security tips. And there's plenty more like that. But there's just some basic things you can do to take care of some of these things yourself. All right, we'll talk about security. We don't have a lot of time left. We've got about 15 minutes. But did you ask about customizing the login?
Yeah, I mean, actually changing, domain.com/wp-admin to just ABC or something, just changing that URL. I mean,
that's different than what I thought you meant.
I mean, if that URL is different, the bot's not going to be able to find it.
What I thought you were talking about was there's a plugin. I don't think this is the one I like, but there's several plugins that do a custom login page. I thought that's what you're talking about.
No.
Okay.
That would be just physically changing that URL.
Yeah, but I think security will do that.
It will.
Change the URL.
So if you have TP into the server, it's actually a different name, or is it still?
No,
it uses some tricks, does some rewrites, and does the HTTP access, so that behind the scenes, it's still going to WP-admin. I think this is how it goes.
I mean, that
some sort of redirect.
But on front of the site, you go to domain.com/abc, and there's your one.
I mean, it's a shame it's not like a config file where you can just set, hey, here's where the admin page is at during install.
Well, there is a way in the config file where you can move your whole WordPress install one level deep, which is a nice deterrent against some of this stuff. And there's a codex page about that.
And if you wanted to move the login away from WP-admin, you could write it for any page and just do a redirect to a different page altogether. And there's code to pop in that form, so that it still does exactly the same thing as the admin page.
Yeah, but a redirect is still going to let the bot find out within the locations. So So you want to turn off the WP admin location and just put it somewhere else.
I mean, something that's difficult to do now, but.
It's a little
And
tedious.
great.
There's actually some instructions that I've seen in the WordPress product on how to do that, how to change your WP content directory, a bunch of these things. The iTunes security plugin will do all of those for you. And you don't have to know how, it's just the easy way to do it. But if you want to learn, you can go to the codex pages and find out specifics.
But it's physically not changing the folder structure through FTP or anything like that, it's just.
Correct.
No, I mean, there's small meters.
If you change the folder hierarchy, then I mean,
It'll
correct me
work.
if I'm wrong, but that's basically creating a folder in WordPress and then kind of.
Actually, no.
Tell you where the content directory is.
Yeah, that's
It's built in.
there is a way to say, that's what I was saying, there's a way to say to WordPress, my WordPress install is in this directory. It's not in its default place.
Right.
And again, that's the deterrent that it's looking for.
Right, but I mean, in terms of changing WP login.
You're not, yeah, if you rename WP admin,
Yeah.
I'm talking about moving the entire install. If you rename WP admin, you're boarding it.
You're right.
Yeah.
And you can also just type in /admin methods.
So let's talk very quickly. Who asked about why WordPress? Somebody asked why. Okay. So let's completely switch gears off security for a minute, right? And let's take 5 minutes and let's talk about why WordPress over other content management systems. Is that your question, or why WordPress just in general?
Just why WordPress in general.
Okay, I'm going to save my answer to the end. I'm going to ask but I'm going to ask everybody else. Why are we using WordPress?
What supported, abundance of plugins.
Great community.
Okay.
I would say it's really extendable. You can make it do almost anything.
Okay.
And you have a lot of people who use it and work with it.
Good. All good stuff.
Yeah, you can find other developers pretty easy.
The number one answer though from people I work with is it is the most affordable option that they feel comfortable using and learning and going back to everything everybody else said.
Drupal and Joomla hurts.
It meets the requirements for what the client is almost always asking for.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
code is clean and your users like it.
That's true. That's all true.
I had a site built in proprietary software and the guy disappeared.
That never happens.
Never.
Never. Yeah, that's a really unique story.
Not WordPress, so I'm saying.
I'm joking with you. It happens all the time. Here's for me why WordPress, because 20% of the internet runs on WordPress, of the entire internet, and that has actually grown. I think it's more like 22.
Yeah.
So
Is that number one?
by far,
Yeah. The next,
by a lot.
The next, I think, is in the low teens, 12 to 13%.
Yeah.
And what is that?
And that's something like PHP.
I don't remember what it was. It's just half of what WordPress is.
Yeah.
So WordPress is by far the greatest market.
So it's like Google, it's the Google
Of website platforms.
Yes.
Yes. So a fifth of the internet plus is running on WordPress. So what that says to me is that, and I find this a lot, when I go in and talk to a client about what we're going to build or what we're building, typically nowadays somebody on their team has WordPress experience. So they know, there's no training involved. And even if there was training involved, there's not much to train on. It's so easy to use that we sit somebody in front of it, we show them how to build a post, and they know the rest. And I think for me, that's the way Adobe products used to be, right? Adobe products used to be, you learn Photoshop and you could navigate your way around Illustrator, right? Or InDesign. It's not like that anymore. But to me, if you can build a post, you can build a page, and you can manage a custom post type, and then you know the media editor. So I tell my clients, look, if you can surf the web, you can work with this content management system. So ease of use for me is number one.
Yeah, and the only downside of that is that because it's such a large group, people that want to do bad things or make money in bad ways put their time into doing it on those types of sites.
I didn't follow that at all.
In other words, because there's so many users,
There's gonna be more
if I want to do something that's not proper to make money, I will put my time into WordPress plugin or whatever versus something that almost never I use anyways.
Yep.
Because it's the biggest place to go after.
Yep.
The converse of that is also true though, that the community in WordPress is very strong. And so if you run into a problem like that with someone hacking into your site or, groups that are forming to develop ways to get at WordPress, you also find the opposite of people trying to out-hack the hackers.
Absolutely. And so here's what I tell my clients. I'm very, very transparent with my clients, and I let them know that they own the code up front. They have access to the code as we're building the site. And what I let them know is because WordPress is the largest website building platform out there, if something goes wrong with our relationship, right? If we just don't work well together, or you just don't like me, then there's so many other developers out there that can step in and take over on this, which is not true of, and you said it, you got a client or you got a developer that just disappeared. Happens all the time. And I've built a career out of taking over those kinds of projects, right? And WordPress, what's so great about it is if you have a developer who's worth a salt that's building sort of to WordPress standards, another WordPress developer can take that over. You're never out of resources.
Yeah. Seems to have built a critical mass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sorry, real quick, the other benefit is it's developed by a really solid team. Can't say that about any other open source platform that's out there. I mean, they run this thing like it's an enterprise piece of software.
Do you run into design limits or?
Never.
No. Anything you can do?
No. You will run into design limits with Drupal really fast. Drupal's content management system and its front end are very married. WordPress is decoupled, so the content management system is very separate from front end on purpose. So the front end can be. I haven't found anything I can't build with the front end. So there's your reasons. Good. All right. I think we're gonna give Greg 5 minutes to embarrass himself and talk about gravity views. No, we'll talk about it right now. So I purposely saved 5 minutes. I saved 5 minutes for Greg to introduce gravity views, and then we'll network for a while. So Greg, you want to use my computer, or you want to use yours? All right. Greg Franklin, everybody. You thought I forgot, didn't you?
I was counting on you just saying, oh, there's no more time left.
No, there's always time.
Okay, so if you're familiar with Gravity Forms, how many people use Gravity Forms? Okay. Gravity Forms is a plugin. It's a paid plugin. It's a premium plugin. It lets you create forms very easily in the back end, and it's very, very powerful. You can build almost any kind of form that you can think of, multi-page forms, all kinds of fields, anything that you need. And a couple days ago, this new product was released that got Gravity Forms blessing. They actually said, we love this idea, do it. And it's called Gravity Views. You have to have Gravity Forms to use Gravity Views. And basically, right now when you create a form with Gravity, I'm now getting Gravity Forms, when you create the form, it saves the entries into the dashboard, into your database. There's not a way that comes with Gravity Forms for you to be able to display those entries that are happening. That's what Gravity Views is all about. It's going to go ahead. It's on the front end. It's gonna display it. So an example, they come with a bunch of already preset templates. So an example of that might be profiles or a job board or business data, and it's going to essentially create a data structure for you and output that. And it is very cool. And I'll show you what some of those look like. Let's see here. Let's go to. So this one here is a website, featured websites. And it has the search ability built in and pagination already built in. And you can see it's going to show an image, it's going to give some information, you can view details. And so this is all, you can, in the back end, you'd have a form, you'd enter all that information in, and it's going to output it just like this using Gravity Views. And it gives you a short code. So the short code, you drop it in the page, and it's going to output this kind of a result. So like advanced custom fields, where you've got the back end and you've got to write the code to do the front end, this is kind of that way. It's doing Gravity forms and creating that output for you. And it has, so if we go back and look, when you install it, it creates this new area called Views. Let's go to All Views, and I don't have one, so I can hit Create One.
Is this out?
This is out, like 2 days ago. And we can hit Start Fresh. And let's say you have these templates that are in here available. Let's go ahead and let's do a staff profiles. So we'll call it staff. And down here, you can see they actually do a layout. And these are draggable. And they have different kinds of configurations.
So this is for if you have a site and you have 10 people on your staff, and you want to put their bio, the pictures and bios in this way.
That's correct.
Gravity forms.
Using Gravity forms for the way to insert it, and Gravity Views to present it.
So you have to have Gravity.
Yes.
Can you walk down what people can and can't see what views?
I don't know. I won't know.
I think that's what you're doing.
But this doesn't
see what you're going to display.
Yes, you can choose what you can display.
What if, like, you wanted to have resume be viewable to members?
That's a very good question.
So this doesn't create Gravity, use a membership plugin to lock down that page as short code that shows the view.
Do that.
Right.
So you can see over here on the right, we've got this Gravity View ID 8. You would grab that and put it into your page or your post, and it's going to generate the result. And I want to show you what else it does. If you hit Publish, not only we've created this little staff page here, but if we go look in Gravity Forms, it already creates the form for you. There it is.
That's why I said
So
it doesn't create the form.
Yeah, you don't even have to create the form. It does. The Gravity Views is doing it for us.
Form for you.
Yes. So you can see it's got the photo, the name, the last name, the title. It's all there. It is kind of like types of views. It's giving us a way to take the back-end information. The Gravity Forms is the form, and then a way to output the entries that you're adding into the form. That's it. That's my 5 minutes. And I guess I should show the price.
How much is it?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask.
So Gravity View is a separate price.
It is. It's a whole different company. It's a whole different thing. But they do have the blessing of Gravity Forms.
Oh.
Until they decide to make their own version.
It's possible. Or they buy them, right? So let's go up to pricing. There we go. So it's $39 for a single site, $99 for 3 sites, and $239 for 100 sites.
That's cheap.
Pretty cheap.
Thanks, Craig.
And I would assume that
That's what it says, that they're planning on doing all kinds of stuff. So this was just a start.
That's it. Thank you. So if you have never been here before, we drink both during and after the meeting. So we're going to reconvene over at the House of Brews in about 25 minutes. So we'll network here for 20, and then hope to see you over at the House of Brews. And if I don't,